Sabrina Carpenter here with all the movies I watched in October. I'm a bit late, I know, but November was just a weird month for me and it just flew by and I didn't really make as many videos as I planned to. I have a lot of great ideas, so I apologize, but that means that there is a lot coming in December. Starting off with the movies I watched in October. I am doing a separate video on the movies I watched in November because I watched quite a few movies in both months and I want to be able to discuss them all. So my next video, hopefully if everything goes according to plan, will be the movies that I watched in November. So yeah, in October, because at the end of October is Halloween, obviously it's spooky month, I tried to watch like Halloweeny movies. I even tried to dabble into horror and I watched a couple of movies. At the beginning of the month I was like very enthusiastic about like my list of movies that I made, and then I watched a lot in the beginning, like all of these were watched in the beginning of the month. Then in the second half of the month, I don't know what happened, but just like the motivation like wasn't there and I didn't end up watching as many as I wanted to, just like in its entirety of the month, but I still watched quite a few. So let's just get into this. Let's begin with Jennifer's Body, which came in 2009, which gave 4 out of 5 stars. A newly possessed cheerleader turns into a killer who specializes in offing her male classmates. Can her best friend put an end to the horror? This is the movie I'm going to watch the most this month because it's just a movie I've heard a lot of great things about and seems very interesting. So when I was like making my list for like horror movies and Halloween movies that were on Netflix and Disney Plus, which are the 2 streaming platforms I personally have access to, and I saw that Jennifer's Body was on Disney Plus, I just had to watch it. And it did not disappoint. I really liked it. I do think like some of like the metaphors and stuff went a little bit over my head because I'm not as critical of a movie viewer as most would be, but I still really had a great time watching it. It's very much of the time and I quite liked it. I think it added to the charm of it. Like there's a lot of slang in there that we just like don't use anymore, or just like pop culture references that are outdated, but I don't know, it works with the charm of the movie. I really liked our 2 main characters. I just thought that they were like fun to follow. I don't know if that's the correct thing to say. Yeah, I had a great time watching this movie and I don't really know what else to say about it. I apologize. Moving on, we have Ready or Not, which came out in 2019, which I gave 5 out of stars. A bride's wedding night takes a sinister turn when her eccentric new in-laws force her to take part in a terrifying game. Ready or Not, I have seen a movie commentary on once upon a time. I love watching movie commentaries, especially movies I haven't seen yet. And I watched a movie commentary for this and it made me really intrigued into the movie, which I wasn't really that much before because it is in like the horror genre. And like I said, I'm going out of my comfort zone this month. I ended up really loving this. I just really liked our main character. I thought she was an amazing character to follow, and the whole like game aspect of it was really fun as well. Horrifying and messed up, but it was just a fun like way to tell the story. I really also liked the family in this. Again, horrifying and fucked up, but I thought they had like interesting dynamics and I laughed quite a bit throughout this movie as well. And I genuinely like felt on the edge of my seat while watching this entire movie, and I was horrified for what was happening to our main character, and I felt that like anxiety that she would probably be feeling, and I don't know, I was horrified but I still had a great time. So like I said, my review is not the best, I apologize. Then I watched Babysitter, which came in 2017. I gave 2 out of 5 stars. When Cole stays up past his bedtime, he discovers that his hot babysitter is part of a satanic cult that will stop at nothing to keep him quiet. So I haven't heard the best things about this movie, but this has like the babysitter in this is the same actress as the lead of Ready or Not, which made me interested in this, and I hate myself for it. Not necessarily because it is a terrible movie, because I do think there are some interesting elements to it and I feel like the horror was also alright, but the comedy is where this one just goes wrong. I just think nothing that was meant as a joke in this was particularly funny. It just it wasn't my cup of tea. And also just feel like the plot was a little bit like too little for me to fully care. And yeah, like I said, the humor just absolutely not my thing, and you can tell that this movie tried so hard to be like hilarious, but it didn't deliver on that at all. I am somewhat interested in the sequel, but I didn't get around to it this October. Maybe next year, we'll see. Then another surprising favorite, and that's Happy Death Day, which came out in 2017 and I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. Caught in a bizarre and terrifying time warp, college student 3 finds herself repeatedly reliving the day of her murder, ultimately realizing that she must identify the killer and the reason for her death before her chances of survival went out. I have recently discovered that I really like movies or books, stories that have the repeating the same day over and over again trope. And this one did it amazingly. This one, like, again, what I've heard a lot of great things about, especially when the sequel came out. I feel like I started hearing a lot of buzz around this movie as well. I really like this. Again, really surprising. I really liked our main character. I liked this side cast of characters. I genuinely felt scared at points. I like the overall plot of it, even though it wasn't as nerve-wracking as Ready or Not was for me, which I felt constant anxiety to. I didn't have that with this movie at all, but there were still some great jump scares that had me. And overall, I really liked the plot of her trying to find her, the person who killed her. And I think that it was something that I didn't predict eventually what it was, but I do think that it made sense with how the story went, and I really liked that. And like I said, I really liked her main character. I even think there was a mini side romance in this movie as well, and I think that was even done well. I feel like with how little time is spent to the romance, it could very easily feel like something that was shoehorned into just have a romance, but still it felt satisfying to me, so I don't really care that much. So then we move on to There's Someone Inside Your House, which came out in 2021. I give 2 out of 5 stars to. As the countdown to graduation begins, students at Osborne High are being stalked by a maniac intent on exposing their darkest secrets to the entire town. Terrorizing victims while wearing a lifelike mask of their own face with a mysterious past of her own, Makani and her friends must discover the killer's identity before they become victims themselves. This is an adaptation of a Stephanie Perkins book, and even though I've read books by Stephanie Perkins before, I haven't read this one yet, but I've been pretty interested in it, just never really picked it up because, again, horror is just something in general that I've only been getting into recently. But I watched this adaptation, wasn't the biggest fan of it. It wasn't bad. I still had a fun time with it. It moved pretty quickly, didn't feel dragged out or anything. I feel like the story was paced very well, but I don't know. I had no connection to it. I do think the characters were alright, and there were some decent jump scares in this, but I feel like eventually the reveal of who the killer is just didn't make sense. I didn't see coming, but that also just didn't make sense with the rest of the story. I just came completely out of nowhere, and I don't understand it. I feel like it could have been scarier. There was also a romance in this, and it was a much bigger part of the story than in Happy Death Day, but I feel like this one was worse done. This was just the definition of a meh movie, where I just don't really feel particularly I didn't really love it, and I didn't really hate it either. I don't have feelings either way. Moving on, we have Muppets Haunted Mansion, which came out in 2021, and I give 2 out of 5 stars to. Gonzo is challenged to spend one night in the Haunted Mansion on Halloween night. I love Muppet movies. I always have. I was really excited for this Halloween special to come out, and especially ones that I learned that it was focusing on Gonzo, and Gonzo was the main character, because I love Gonzo as the main character. He's not my favorite Muppet, but close. But I feel like this was just a little bit disappointing to me, and I think a part of that is just having no knowledge of the Haunted Mansion. And I feel like if I did know about that or loved Haunted Mansion, I would enjoy this more as well, because there are a lot of references to the Haunted Mansion in this that's so noticeable, even if you don't know what it is. So yeah, again, I don't really feel strongly either way for this. It was fine, but it's not something I was obsessed with. I really expected to like this a lot more. I feel like some of the jokes just landed flat a little bit. Wasn't terrible. I still had fun with it, and I laughed a couple of times. I really liked Gonzo as the lead for this. I thought he was the perfect choice for that, because he was my favorite part of this whole special. But yeah, I don't know, I feel like it just relied a little bit too much on knowing Haunted Mansion and on those references. So yeah. Moving on to the last movie already for today, and it's Scary Movie, which came out in 2000. Give 2 to 5 stars to. It's also a rewatch, following on the heels of popular teen scream horror movies with upracious comedy and biting satire. Marlon and Sean Wayans, Shannon Elizabeth, and Carmen Electra pitched in to skewer some of Hollywood's biggest blockbuster, including Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Matrix, American Pie, and The Blair Witch Project. I don't know how to fully explain my thoughts on this movie, my experience with this movie, but basically, growing up, I really liked these kinds of parody movies, where a Scary Movie definitely was like the better but there's also like the Hangover Games, and Epic Movie, and what's the Twilight one, Vampire Suck? Those kind of movies, I was definitely way too young to be watching those, considering like the humor of all those movies, but I loved them. I don't know why. And then Scary Movie definitely is like the best of a parody genre that I have seen, and especially the first one, I feel like. And I rewatched this like 2 years ago, and I really liked it back then, but now watching it, I just no. Like the humor just like didn't work with me at all. I feel like a lot of it was unnecessarily offensive. No, I just and everything was just like very cringy and not funny. And again, just when it comes to like the reveal of like the murderer, which I know it's supposed to be like something silly because that's the point of the movie, but I just it could have been set up a little bit better, you know. And yeah, also the acting performances just felt off, and a lot of the references to other movies just felt shoehorned in, like that Matrix reference. We didn't need that. That was just definitely just like, look, we know there's one movie. That's all I have for you today. I know it wasn't like as in-depth as you maybe wanted to, but like I said, it's been a while since I watched these, and my memory is not the best, but I still had a great time with it, and I have found myself enjoying some horror movies, which, you know, is great. Definitely leave your horror recommendations in the comments based on my thoughts on these movies that I watched. And yeah, let me know in the comments below as well what you thought of the movies that I discussed in this video that you watched, as well as the movies you watched in October. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Good. Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? Should've played it cool instead of